Hi everyone, in this video we are going to code and style the theme section of our website. So finally we are at this section where we are going to have some cool hover effects and we're going to apply or implement mobile fallback. So the main focus would be implementing mobile fallback, and other than that, the rest of the styling, we have done them so many times, they're very simple. So we have a title, we have the same section title, we have 3 cards. Each of the cards is going to be a container, and then we are going to have hover effects for those containers as well. So the way that you know that this hover effect is on the card itself and not on the images, that when you hover on the image, the social links, they appear, and when you just hover on the card, the social links appear. So the hover effect is on the actual cards. Let's jump into HTML first. Let me collapse this section. So within the theme, first we are going to have our title. So I'm going to say title. This is going to be an H2. Now this section, I wanted to have that section padding as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add it. For the title, we are going to have theme _ title. And we are also going to give it that section title utility class that we have created. Now in here, we are going to say meet our, then we have the span element, creative team members. There we go. So the title is done. Next up, we have the members, which there are 3 members. For each of them, we are going to have one container. So the container is going to contain the image, social links, the name, as well as the role for each of the members. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say members. There we go. So I'm going to create a div. The div is going to have a class of team, come on buddy, team members. And within here, we are going to have a member 1. Why do I adding another member? I could say team member. That's a little bit more easy to understand. So with for the first team member, we are going to have a div that is going to have a class of team members member -- member. There we go. So in here, we have the image for each of the members. The image is going to be within a div. Right? So the reason that I'm providing each member within a container is because each member is each card and contains multiple elements. So let me copy this class name as we are going to use that. So let's grab the image for each of the members. So it is image. It is within the images folder. From there, we're going to jump into team. So team member 1. I could say member, team member. And let's add the loading equal to lazy attribute as well. There we go. So the image is done. Make sure you get out of not the image, but the actual div for the image. So after the image, what do we have? We have these social icons. And for those, we are going to have members, member, _ social. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to copy paste the social icons. We're going to have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So these are the social icons. Then we have the name, which is going to be NH3. And let's copy it all the way to here. This is the member. And then let's add name. So the first one is going to be Alice Amana, and the role, the final thing that we need to add is going to be the role. I'm going to add the role right here. Now this role, I wanted to receive styling from our section para. So I'm going to say section _ para. And it is going to be founder and CEO, Chief Executive Officer. Let's save that. Let's take a look at our styles, our elements. So this is the first image. It is gigantic. It shouldn't be this big. The images, when you insert them, you can just go ahead and resize them. I didn't do that. You could do that. That is going to be better because that in that manner, the size of the images, they're going to be smaller and they're going to load way faster. So that is the first team member. Let's jump into creating the second team member. So let's copy this, put it down here, save it, and we can see the document is being formatted. So we are going to say team 2. So this is going to be team member 2, and we are going to change the name, which is going to be Benjamin. I'm just going to copy paste that, not to make mistakes. This is going to be Benjamin Lionheart, and he is a senior software engineer. And let's jump into creating the third team member. So let's collapse this one, not the entire thing, this team member 2, copy that, put it down here and paste it and save it. So now this is going to be team member 3. The name for team member 3 is going to be Fiona Smith. And she is business development manager. There we go. Let's save everything. Let's come here. So the height of the section is fixed. Let's get rid of the height. I'm going to collapse these media queries. When we get to them, we are going to show them one more time. There we go. Let's get rid of this background color as well. Let's save that. There we go. So this is creative team members, the image. Then where are the content? They should be around here behind the image somewhere. There we go. It's right there on the left side of the screen. So I think all of these styles, all of the elements, they're done. The only thing remaining for us would be to jump into CSS and get coding, get styling. So first I'm going to say display flex. Now originally we are going to have two elements, the title and the team content. Okay, let's say the title and the team members. So these are our two elements, and they're going to become flex items. And I want them to be on top of each other, so they're going to be flex direction column. And I'm going to come up with a calc value or a dynamic value for the gap. The minimum is going to be 3 rem. The maximum is going to be 3 rem plus 3 VW. Now, this is the row gap if there are two values. We are not going to work with columns, so I'm just going to remove the column gap. Let's save this. Let's take a look at what we've done. These images are gigantic. Why don't I go ahead and decrease the images? We could go ahead and we could decrease the width of the images. We are within the team, so the images are, let me collapse this. So this is the div for all of the images that we have created. This is the div, and from there I'm going to grab the image. You know what, I'm not going to do this because this belongs to a grid container. We need to create that grid, then we can basically do that. So the title, I'm going to grab the title of the team section, and I'm going to grab the before element. Let's take a look at that. So it's right here. Now what I want to do is I want this line to be in the center, and we are going to do the same thing that we did for the features section. So I'm going to say left 50%. This is going to bring the left edge of the line directly in the center of the text. And when we say transform, translate X, it's going to bring the line 50% towards the left, making it exactly in the center. If I just save that, translate team title, before element, left 50%, transform, translate X, negative 50%. Why is it not working? Okay, are we not selecting that? Can I select it? It's a pseudo element. You can't really select it. So there we go. So this is these styles, they're not being applied. Team, oh, the class name is incorrect in here. So if I come here, it's tema, it's team. And now if I come down here, everything is messed up for some reason. There we go, it is in the middle. And I think the reason for that is because of this gigantic image that we have. We're gonna fix that, don't worry about it. And let's come here, 50% from the left, and then we say transform translate -50%. Let's grab team members. So this is the container for the team members. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say display grid. We're going to use grid, grid template columns. Let's say repeat 3, and each of the columns is going to have a width of 1 FR. Justify content, keep in mind content. This is going to move, or these property values, they're going to be applied on the entire grid, collective tracks, row tracks and column tracks. But because this is justify, it's just going to apply on column tracks. So space between, and let's give it a gap of 2 rem. Let's save everything, and it is still so big, right? So let's go ahead and let's keep on coding. I'm going to say team members -- member. And in here, I'm going to say background color for each of the members is going to be that primary color. The white color, the border radius is going to be 1 rem. I'm going to give it a box shadow, 0 pixel horizontally, 5 pixels vertically, 30 pixels for the radius, blur radius, and 0 pixels for the spread radius. The color for the shadow is going to be 167. 167, 167, and the alpha channel is going to be 1.16. And in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say display grid, grid template columns. Come on, buddy. Grid template columns. I'm going to say I only want 1 column. So these are each individual card or each individual member. So we want 1 column, but we want, for example, 10 rows. I told you, the more columns or rows you have, the more control you have over how long you want those elements to stretch, either vertically or horizontally. So grid template rows, I'm going to say repeat 10. And each of them is going to have 5 rem. Now, this is a very, very specific use case. I told you never provide height for your rows, but because I want the cards to get enlarged vertically, I'm going to provide the width for the row. Sorry, the height for the row. Justify items. Justify items. This is going to justify all the items horizontally. The items within their grid cells, not the entire grid within its grid container. Justify items, we have talked about it. This is going to justify items within their grid cells. And we are going to set them to center. So center. And I'm going to provide this with a position of relative as well, because of that effect that we're going to have. Okay, let's save that. Still, we have ended up with gigantic images. So I'm going to say team members. I mean, we shouldn't have these. Let me take a look at my reference. These look extremely, these images, they look extremely gigantic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab team members member, underscore img. Let's say we wanted to start from grid row 1 and span by 8 rows. There is something I've done incorrectly, and I'm not sure what that is, because it shouldn't be this big. It is extremely big. Let me take a look at our values. 3 rem plus 3 vw. Display flex, this is 50% title, 3 and 1 FR. Very simple stuff. 1 FR, display grid, 10 rem, 10, and then 1 FR, position relative, span 8. Let's grab the team member images. So I'm going to say image height 100% of your container, width 100% of your container. And there we go. So that was basically the issue. I should have done this a long time ago. So there is no issue there. And if I just do that, you're going to see that this is what we actually end up with. So height and width, they were overflowing from their container. What I did was I said, just make sure you get all the height and width of your container available to you. You don't have the permission to go overflow to like 1,000 pixels on the right. And if I do that, if I save it, now here are the images. These images, they seem like they're being stretched from the, if you pull from the bottom or from the top. So there is a property for inline images. For background images, we have background size, which we set it to cover. But for inline images, we have object fit. Kind of lost the word. And we're going to set it to cover. Save that. There we go. So this image, the final one, the Fiona Smith image, it is towards the right. I would want to change it a little bit, bring it horizontally just towards the left. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select that and I'm going to fix it right now. So that image is located within the third divs container. Within the third div. So we have team member 1, team member 2, and then we have team member 3, which is the final one, is the third one. So first I need to select the third div here. So I'm going to grab this class and I'm going to put it right here. Now this is the third one or the last child. And from there I'm going to grab the image. And I'm going to say object position. Now for background images, we had background position. For inline images or images which are inserted within our HTML, we have object position. I'm going to set it to 65% along the horizontal axis. You could say, I don't know, like 60%. Let's save that. This is going to move it towards the right. I'm going to say 55. Again, let's go, I don't know, like 30. Okay, it is moving there. So if I do 70% object position, there we go. This is better. This is in, all three of them are in the middle. So what else do we want to do here? Let's go ahead and let's grab these social icons. We would want to create those, hide them, and then we on hover we want to show them. So social icons, they're within each member social div. So social div, I'm going to say display flags. So these are the 4 icons that we have. Justify content, center, align items, center, and the gap for row is going to be 0 because we don't have any rows. For column, it's going to be 2 rem. So padding is going to be 1 rem, 2 rem. Background image, I'm going to provide it with a gradient, so it is gradient quaternary. Okay, let me lowercase the r. We are also going to have an opacity of 0.8, so we can see behind the actual hover. So when we hover, you can see the behind of that hover. We don't want it to be like solid. And we are going to say position absolute. That is why we have provided position relative, because this member, this is the parent of the social. That's why we have provided position. And we're going to say 70% from the top. It is going to bring it right here. Now these are again experimental values. I've experimented a lot with them. So if I say position absolute, it is going to be taken out of the document flow and it is going to go towards the top. So this is an element which is taken out of the document flow, but still the frame of reference is going to be this card. So it's never going to go out of this card. But if I remove the frame of reference from the card, it is automatically going to take the frame of reference, which is the parent. If there isn't any other position relative, it is going to take that the body as the frame of reference. Now in here, it is not taking the body. I think it is taking this title because this does have a position relative on it. So if I go towards the top, if I go to section title, so we do have this section title that has a position relative. I mean, it is going to ruin everything. That line, it doesn't show anymore, and it is not getting out of this. Let me just bring that here. I think that maybe because it is a grid, display flags. So if I were to remove this and save it, there we go. So now this is right here. Now the reason that it was on the top, because it was a grid item. Now it is not a grid item. That is why it changed its place, its position. So let's bring back everything that we messed up. We want it to be 70% from the top of its container. 70% is right here. If you think it should be 60%, you're correct. For me, it's going to be 70%. And when we hover on it, I want it to have a transition of all 0.25 seconds and a cubic Bezier of 0.39. Not 369. Come on, that is easier if I do it like this. So 0.39, 575, 565, and 1. Now this is done. Let's go ahead and let's actually create the hover effect. Now the hover effect for each of the cards is going to be different. So for this card, it's going to come from the left. For this one, it is simply a matter of opacity. For this one, it's going to come from the right. But before we provide the hover effect, let's take a look at our social. We need to style this so it looks exactly like this one. Then we are going to provide the hover effect. So below, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say team members, member social, and then I'm going to grab the I element. So font size is going to be var STM, static medium. The color is going to be color var primary. Okay, again, why do I keep adding another set of parentheses? And the cursor is going to be pointer. Save that. Let's take a look at our changes. There we go. We need to provide it with that border radius as well. So what I'm going to do is let's come in here, and I'm going to say border radius is going to be 4 rem. So we end up with a tablet, kind of like a medicine tablet kind of background. Yeah, it looks like that. So I think both of them now look the same. Cool. Let's apply the other effect that we want. And you know what, that is a little bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to style the name and the role, and then we are going to jump into that. That is going to be the last thing that we do in the desktop version. So let's grab the title or the name. So within the member, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the name. This is the name of each of the people. Font size is going to be var STM, static medium. Grid row, we want it to start from 9 at the bottom and end at 10. And align self, I would want it to be on the end. There we go. So there we go. It's right here. Align self in this, in here, it is going to work vertically. Let's take a look at the first team member. There we go. So when I said align self end, it brought it towards the bottom. So what I want to do is I want to bring this title and this paragraph closer together. That's why I've said align self end. There we go. So by default, this is going to be towards the start, and it is going to be right there. So we don't need to actually do anything for that. We need to only give it a fixed position. So that is going to be the role. And I'm going to say grid row, start from 10 and end at 11. Let's add that, save it. Let's come here. So it has its position fixed. There we go. I think I think they look the same. Okay, so the only thing remaining in the desktop version would be the icons. So first, now all three of them, they're going to have different hover effects. So I'm going to grab the first child. Now this member, each member, keep in mind, is a card, and we want to hover the card. So the first child, when we hover this, what does that mean? It means we are going to say hover, and do not use empty role sets. Okay, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to say left -20 rem. So this is not the hover state. I'm just going to remove that. So originally, what do we want to do? Originally, we are not going to see any hover, any social links. When we hover, we want to see the social links. So for the first one, what do I want to do? I want to grab that social link and I want to move it towards the left by 200 pixels. So basically, I want to get rid of it. I want to hide it. And when I hover on it, then I want to show it. Now, which part do you want to hide? I want to hide these social icons. So we need to select those. So from the first member, the social icons container is going to be moved towards the left. Let's save that. Let's go. Let's see that. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger than our normal container. So it is right here. When we hover on it, it is going to travel in the X direction towards where it is supposed to be, towards where the left is 0. That is the first child. Let me copy it down below. So for the second child, it is just a matter of opacity. So I'm going to say opacity is going to be 0. We're just going to say opacity 1. So, okay, this is nth child 2, nth child 2. Let's save that. There we go. So opacity is 0 for this one. And for this one, we would want to move it towards the right by -20 rem. And let's grab the last child, copy it, put it down here. I'm going to say last child. What am I doing? Last child. And I'm going to say right -20 rem. So if you do right, the element is going to start from the right. If you do left, the element is going to start from the left. That's how you provide positions for any element that has either a position of fixed or a position of absolute. So right 20 rem, the same amount. So it is going to be on the right. So by default, if you don't take a look at these social icons, you're not going to see them on the cards themselves. But when you hover, then they're going to move. So this is like behind the scenes of this effect. Now, when do we want those icons to be shown? When we hover the actual card. So I'm going to copy all three of these. I'm going to put them down here. And I'm going to say when the member, which is the first child, is hovered, and yes, this is valid. You can have two pseudo classes on one element. When this is hovered, what do we want to do with the social? We want to bring it to its original place, which is left 0. And then when the nth child 2 is hovered, what do you want to do? You want to do opacity 1. We want to see it. And when the last child is hovered, what do you want to do with the social? Keep in mind, so when the team member, which is the last child, is hovered, then its child, which is team member's social container, what we want that to go to right 0. So whatever comes last in the CSS selector, the styles will be applied on that. Keep that in mind. So that what is the last element? The last class is the social class. So this opacity is going to be applied on the social, but not on the card itself. Let's save that. So if I hover on it, you can see it is moving and it is coming towards the left 0, right 0. And then opacity. Left 0, opacity 1, right 0. Opacity 1, left 0, right 0. This is how it works. So this is behind the scenes. Now, technically, this is not something that we would want to see, right? So I don't want the user to see that the icons, they're here, and then they travel towards the left or travel towards the right. I want the user to see nothing. And when the user hovers, then the user would see, okay, oh, these are moving. So I don't want the user to see behind the scenes. Therefore, on the cards, This is each individual card, right? Members, member. Remember, how do we know it's individual? Because there is no S in here. And here I'm going to say overflow X, not overflow wrap, hidden. So we are not, our elements, they're not going to overflow in the X direction. This is where you use overflow X. Cool. Let us put that there. There we go. So if I hover on it, it is going to come from there. There we go. So this part is done. It is completed. The only issue is that if I say enable touch simulation, and if I refresh the page, and if I come down here, and when I hover on it, it is not going to work. Even if I click, you can see, even if I click that circle that is being created, it's when you click and hold and move up and bottom, it simulates the touch of a finger. So it is not going to show or hover. Where are the social icons? So we need to provide a mobile fallback. Now the mobile fallback is extremely simple. It is a media query. So we are going to say at media. And what is this media is going to relate to? It is going to relate to hover. So on all devices for which the primary pointing tool or asset is touch, what do you want to do? You want to see the social icons, and we don't want to move it at all. But for devices for which the primary pointing tool or asset is not touch, it is mouse, we want to see those. We don't want to see it, and when we hover with mouse, then we want to see it. Again, for touch devices, we don't want to have that hover, and we don't want it to be enabled. This is what this media query is going to do for us. For touch devices, all the elements will be shown at all times. But for not touch devices, the elements, the social icons, they will not be shown until you hover on them. So what we are going to do here is we are going to grab all of this. I told you it's going to be simple. And I'm going to save it there. That's it. I'm not going to overcomplicate it anymore. So when it is touch simulation, it means now it seems like it is on a tablet view. And or if I bring it like this, it is now a tablet view. So in a tablet, because the primary pointing asset or tool is touch, no information will be hidden. Everything will be shown. But as soon as I take out that hand icon, this says enable touch simulation. Now it means that our cards or our website, it is on any kind of device for which the primary pointing tool or device is mouse. Now all the information will not be shown. The icons, they will be hidden until we hover on them. This is called a mobile fallback. So for mobile, we are going to have all the information shown. There is no hover, so the user will see everything. But for other devices, like laptops, computers, whatever, Mac, Linux, everything will be shown. Everything will be shown only if you do hover. So this simple media query, this is intelligent. It is going to detect whether my device is a tablet, is a mobile, is a PC, is a Mac, whatever. Then it is going to decide based on that. Keep in mind that you need to provide all the styles within here. That's it. So this is the new thing that we did in this project. Cool. Now let's go ahead and let's talk about how we can make this website responsive. So at some point we have used for these cards, let's take a look at the member. We have set display grid. So we have not done any kind of intelligent grid placement algorithm. So we have said we want 3 columns, and each of the columns width is going to be 1 FR. Now at some point we need to have 2 columns, and at some other point we need to have 1 column as the width of the screen is getting smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep making the width of the screen smaller, and let's see where these cards they're going to get squished, and where do we need to provide that. So what I'm going to do, around 1200, I'm going to provide a media query, and I'm going to change 3 columns into 2 columns and 1 row into 2 rows. So now we have 3 columns, 1 row. I'm going to change it to 2 columns, 2 row. Cool. At 1200. I'm going to do this manually. So this is going to be at media, screen, and max width. So at the width of 1200 or smaller than that, so 1200 pixels or smaller than that, I'm going to grab the team members. Give me a comment. So this is going to be team. So keep in mind, we have provided this for the container of the cards or the team members. So we only need to grab that. And how do we know this is the container? It says team members. If it said team members -- member, that is each individual card. We don't want to do anything to that. So in here, I'm just going to say grid template columns, repeat. I'm going to decrease from 3 to 2, and I'm still going to say 1FR. Let's save that, and there we go. So above it, below that. Now let's go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply another property here as well. Justify content, space between. Let's save that, and it is going to provide space between these elements. In case I don't think it has any effect, so I'm going to comment it out, and we are going to see whether or not this is going to break our design. Now let's keep making the width of the window smaller. Smaller. Everything is looking cool. At around 850, the padding is going to get decreased. The cards that are going to enlarge, that is going to give us some more room to wiggle these. There we go. So now you can see the cards, they just got bigger because 1FR, it is going to be intelligent. It's going to grab all the space necessary or required or available. So I think it is getting smaller than we want, so around 700. But I believe we have a media query around 650. So if I go to 650, I think that is the correct size. So for below 650, what I would want to do is I would want to stack all these three members on top of each other. So I'm going to copy this, close this. Where is 650? I'm going to come towards the bottom of 650. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to remove this. Now I don't want to have 3 columns. I want to have 1 column, 3 rows. There we go. So below 650, there we go. So you can see now it is smaller and smaller. And if I keep making the width of the window smaller, so at around 428, we don't have any scroll bars, horizontal scroll bars. There we go, 370, 350. That is cool. Everything is looking cool. So it is 1FR, so you can decrease it as much as you want. Now this scroll bar, it belongs to the previous section. For this one, we are not going to have any. There we go. So this section is also done. See you in the next one.